Hi, I'm Stuart from the Norfolk Honey Company and welcome to another Beekeeping Basics. So today I've come back to the apiary that we've just established next to the field of Oil Seed Rape, and I'm going to be putting on Queen Excluders and a Super on each of the hives here. The Oil Seed Rape has now started to flower and I think we got the bees here just at the right time. So let me spin the camera around and just give you a quick look of the field, and then we'll get the Supers and the Queen Excluders over and I'll show you how I put those onto the hives. So just before we get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Paul, who is our latest patron, supporting us through our Patreon page in helping us to produce more videos. If you haven't yet seen our Patreon page, it's patreon.com/Norfolk Honey, and I'll put a link down in the description below, and it's where you can help support us producing more of these videos. So on to today. It's really quite windy, and you'll remember from the last video that I placed all of the stands on the concrete slabs in a rather haphazard fashion, and we've put the hives onto those stands, again pointing in different directions, and that will help the bees find their way home in these very windy conditions. If we had them all lined out in a straight row, then the bees were bound to drift from hive to hive, and if any of them are carrying infections, diseases, then the chances are it's going to spread to other colonies. So that's a useful tip to remember for helping your bees find their way home and also helping to prevent the spread of disease. So let's go and take a look at a couple of the hives, and I'll show you how I put the Queen Excluder and the Super on, and I'll just talk you through what it is that I'm doing, and we'll see how the bees are managing to bring in all of this oilseed rape. So you can see this is one of the colonies that had the pollen substitute on, and they have taken some of it, but not a great deal. And now we've got the oilseed rape, they'll have a ready supply of pollen to be able to bring back for their larvae. So it looks like we've got plenty of bees in this colony, so that's good. This is an interesting one. So this one didn't have a dummy board, doesn't have a spare frame at the end, and the bees have built an enormous chunk of brood on the end of the crown board, and that's got quite a lot of drone brood on it, so that's really interesting. So what I'm going to do is just gently shake these bees off, and I do that just by tapping the crown board, and then we can have a little closer look. And you can see that large area in the centre here is all drone brood. So what I'm going to do is actually remove this piece, and I've got some spare frames, so I'll just drop an extra frame in there for now. But we'll leave that frame out so that we can just have a very quick inspection. I'm not really going to be messing them around too much. There's obviously plenty of bees in here. And you can see here Lovely slab of brood, and these bees are working really hard. So we've got eggs and larvae in here. Here's a few more drone cells here. Otherwise they look in really good shape. I'm not going to inspect them, the wind is still quite cool, so I'm just going to leave these girls. But what I am going to do is to get another box on top of them, and because there's so many bees here, what I'm going to do is just put an empty box on top and allow the bees to come up and onto the brood frames. And I'm going to use a national brood box. This is a commercial brood box, and I'm going to put a national brood box on top of it, because what I want to do is to extract those frames and then reuse them in another brood box. So we'll just go and get that sorted. So here you can see the national brood box, and these are smaller frames than the commercial, but the actual footprint of the box is the same as the commercial, so they're interchangeable. So the bees are now coming up onto here, and what I'm also going to do is to put a Queen Excluder on the top and then put a super with drawn comb on it, so the bees can come up and store nectar and pollen in the super above, but the queen won't be able to get in there, but she will be able to move across these frames, and that will hopefully encourage the bees up from the box below, and they'll start drawing this comb. Because we've now got a nectar flow on, there's no need for me to put a feeder on, but if there wasn't so much nectar, then what I'd do is put a feeder on top of this one and feed them so that they had enough food stores to be able to draw this comb quickly. And purely as a matter of personal preference, I always have the wires going across the frames, so the frames are going this way, which is called the cold way, and the wires are going across, and then the super goes on top and matches the frames beneath it. And these frames are frames that have been previously drawn, and the bees will clean these up and produce new wax and fill in the gaps and fill it with stores. And we'll make sure we come back and take a look at this hive again in a week or two, and so we can then show you exactly what's happening and how far they've got on. Just knock the bees off the prime board and give it a little clean. And this is hive number 48, so remember that number, and we'll come back and take a look at this as we go through the season. And if you want to make sure that you're not spreading disease, between inspections, just give your hive tool a quick wash in a mixture of washing soda. I have got another video where I show you the mix that I use, but this is roughly 3 or 4 litres of water with about half a packet of washing soda. There's no need to be terribly accurate with it, and I also put a little splash of washing up liquid in it. Okay, so that's the hive tool cleaned, and now we can carry out the inspection. Just a little smoke at the entrance. Okay, so this colony had some fondant, which is all gone. They also had some old pollen and wax that came from last year's extraction, and I saved some and fed it back to the bees. It had been through my Appy melter, so it had been heated up to quite a high temperature, and they've cleaned that out really well. And then this is the pollen substitute, and you can see in this one the bees have actually been taking it, so the bees actually wanted some pollen substitute in this one. So let's see how well they've done with the pollen substitute. So this is hive number 31, and we'll come back and take a look at this one in a few weeks as well. Okay, so the first thing to say is that the dummy board is on this side, so I would normally start inspecting from this side, which is what I'll do today. But because the field of oilseed rape is just over here, I want to really inspect on this side because the bees are going to be flying out towards the field and I'm going to be in their way. So what I'll do is, when I've finished the inspection, is I'll move this dummy board and frame to this side so that next time I can inspect from this side. It's actually now getting quite windy, so again I'm not going to do a huge inspection. This is really just a chance to have a look and see how the bees are doing. And this is the first time this hive has been opened since last autumn, so it's gummed together quite well. So we'll take that out and place it on the other side of the hive because we're going to just work our way across. And I'm looking down and I can see that there aren't any bees working these frames, so I can move these two frames. They are really gummed up, so we'll have to do some housekeeping at some point in the not too distant future. And really all I'd just like to see is some brood and just see how the bees are doing. So they're actually storing lots of nectar here. I'm just tilting the frame towards the sunlight so I can see what's happening inside the cells. So here we've got lots of brood, and if I just tilt it towards the light I can see that there's lots of larvae in there as well. And again we've got some drone brood at the bottom corner here. So because it is a bit chilly, although it's been a warm afternoon, that wind is still quite chilly. It is still March, so I'm not going to go any further and disturb the bees. I'm going to close them up and we're going to put a Queen Excluder and a drawn super on top of them. And just stop the bees from getting squashed. There. That's great. So now I've pushed them all together, I'm going to move them all over to this side. If I did it one at a time I could end up squashing more bees, so I'm just going to shift that all across to this side. Now I don't think that this is going to move all in one go because this propolis is really gummed up. So what I'm going to do is move 3 or 4 at a time. Let's see if we can do 4 or 5 we've got here. So in moving those 5 frames, I'm not crushing bees in between each individual frame. And we'll do 3 because we've not actually moved any of these, and they are really gummed up. And we'll work to cleaning them up over the coming weeks so that access to the hive is nice and easy and inspections not going to be at all difficult. So this end frame is really stuck together, so we'll have to move these 2 individually. So this frame has actually been stitched to the side wall of the brood box, so we just simply push the hive tool down and cut through. The bees are moving out of the way because I've just smoked them, and we can just release it all the way down. And this one we'll probably end up replacing. Okay, so that's that one moved across. We can then pop this frame and the dummy board in, so that next time when we come over to inspect, we can start on this side and we won't be standing in their line of flight. Okay, and again, once it warms up a bit, we'll then clean everything up. But I will just take this burr comb off the top, and we'll take that away. Remember to clean everything away and not just drop it on the floor and leave it there, because that's going to encourage robbing and disease. Okay, so that's cleaned up sufficiently, and then we have the Queen Excluder and a super, and the bees can now get into that quite nicely. And then we'll pop the crown board back on top. I'm going to allow them the pollen substitute still, but I'm going to take away the other little tub. That's number 31. So that's a quick look at a couple of hives. They all look to have settled in after their move, and they're now on the Oil Seed Rape, foraging really strongly, bringing in lots of pollen. So I'm really happy that we've got them here in good time, and they can now start to produce some more brood, which will then emerge, and we'll get lots more bees out foraging and hopefully get a good crop of honey. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do think about subscribing, and don't forget to hit the like button, the thumbs up button, and also if you could share on social media networks, that would be great too. Finally, don't forget to take a look at our Patreon page. The details are down in the description below, and I look forward to catching up with you next time. Thanks for watching.